energy growth strategy focused on three key lines. And that's basically driven by the energy solutions that we want to bring to target markets within Nigeria and eventually Sub-Saharan Africa. So within our upstream business today, we're investing in targeted viable projects, value-accretive projects that will allow us to grow our oil and gas resource base and reserve base with the ultimate aim of underpinning our growth into midstream gas processing and gas exports, and also in terms of our refining capacity. Ultimately, the focus for the ownership, the board, the shareholders of Smith, is for us to become one of the energy solution providers, both for Nigeria and Sub-Saharan Africa within the next 2 to 3 years. And that's what's driving what we're doing today in our upstream business, where we have viable investments in infrastructure, maintaining our assets and growing our capabilities to be able to handle nearby fields, and also growing our ability to continue to process and produce crude and provide solutions to Nigerian markets.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that. There's a lot of diversification, risk management in that. So you mentioned the word energy, so you're not just looking at oil or gas, it's energy, renewables, looking at that. And there's really a growth mindset that I'm hearing from that, from an indigenous player with marginal fields. You're expanding to cover, but vertically integrate across upstream down to downstream. George, on first E&P, Larry mentioned you're one of the few to operate offshore fields in Nigeria, developing 2 fields. What's the guiding principle for first E&P?
Certainly, thanks, Mansour, and it's nice to join you in this panel. First E&P, we've carved a niche for ourselves in the shallow offshore space, and we've seen quite a fair degree of success doing that. Over the company's last 12 years, we've gone from zero production to just shy of 60,000 barrels a day at the moment, and all of those barrels are organic. So we've found those barrels ourselves, we've developed the barrels ourselves. Now, in terms of the guiding principles, there are 3 things that guide the way we approach our business. And the first thing is we're deeply rooted in the science of the business. So the foundation really is in geoscience, and we invest substantially to understand and gain an information advantage as we pursue the exploration, appraisal, and development of these assets. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we are very deliberate in the way we seek, deploy, and apply technology. And we look for technology that really helps drive one thing for us, and that's a unit development cost. We target a unit development cost of $5 a barrel, and the way we achieve that is we build that in right from the beginning. So our thought process, the development concepts we select, all of that's built into how we pursue our business to enable us to achieve the UDC of $5 a barrel. The third thing is we're laser focused on execution. We seek in total a UTC of $15 a barrel, so $5 UDC, $10 UOC. And in doing that, we're really focused on execution. And together, those 3 things that I just talked about, we believe those things have given us the competitive advantage that we now enjoy in the shallow offshore space.
Thank you very much for that. Now we've heard about your companies. Let's talk about the divestments and the corporate landscape change in Nigeria. I'll come to Larry from Aradem. So 4 out of the 5 announced deals in upstream Nigeria have received government approval. Owando has gone on to complete its transaction acquisition of the Naval business entity, and Chapal and settled have approval and they're finalizing their transactions. What do all of these divestments really mean for the Nigerian space, and how can indigenous companies really position themselves to grow production?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the divestment story for Nigeria is an interesting one. And it just shows the maturity of the Nigerian oil and gas space. I mean, roll back 30 years, we had only the IOCs, controlling the entire acreage for Nigeria. As we speak today, as you mentioned, we have several independents already operating fields responsibly with technical excellence, growing production. And really, when we look at the Nigerian environment, as we very well know, the international oil companies are set up to address challenges in technology, complex, production, and also where you need a lot of financing to be able to get the molecules to the surface. And so what we see happening in Nigeria is a gradual move of the international oil companies from onshore and focusing on the deep water. And so the point there is that as a country in Nigeria, we're blessed with solid technical professionals, which you see across the various independents in the country. A key benefit of having the IOCs for the 50, 60, 70 years is that over time, they've been able to develop, and thanks to the IOCs, they've been able to develop a large crop of seasoned oil and gas professionals in the country. And so the divestment then brings the opportunity to step into the shoes of the IOCs onshore and shallow water. Now, stepping into the shoes of the IOCs, it's not going to be an easy thing. It's not, it's a bit complex. But the beauty of the divestment, because it's onshore, the basic infrastructure is already there, even though it's challenged in a way. But as indigenous players, it gives us the opportunity to demonstrate our local know-how, our ability to interface with the communities and play to the strengths we have in terms of the terrain. And let me give an example. For us in Aradel, where we operate from happens to be next to a river called the Sombrero River. In 2022, we had a problem where the pipeline going to the main export terminal, the new terminal, we were losing crude up to the level of 97%. So you pump in 100 barrels, all that gets registered in the terminal was just 3 barrels. And that was not sustainable. So being an independent on the basis of resilience, we had to find a way. How do we get to the market? So we had to play to our strengths of, yes, we have a river next to us. Why can't we move the crude on the waterways? And that's where the support of government becomes very important. So the support of government in helping, giving all the approvals for us to be able to achieve that. We were able to get that done in 6 months with all the contracting that was required to achieve that. It will interest you to know that we have our own pipeline, which we have run for more than 20 years, and we've never had a single community disturbance on that line. Whereas the main truck line was constantly being ravaged by, sabotage on the lines. And what's the difference for me? The difference is that for us as independents, we understand we're able to interface with the communities better. For us in Arajo, right from the word go, we had what we called an host community trust fund. As way back as 2000, year 2000. That host community trust fund concept is what has now been enshrined in the PIA. So for the independents, it's a great opportunity. The divestment is a great opportunity, but it then requires us to demonstrate the discipline of what project delivery, the discipline of governance, and doing things sustainably. So it cannot be that the divestments happen and the independents come in, and then we have a lot of environmental pollution, things are not done sustainably. That cannot be the case. Our story is completely different in the sense that we have operated sustainably for the last 30 years. We have an excellent relationship with our host communities. In terms of project delivery, like I mentioned, we have been able to have a flow station that does 20,000 barrels, a gas plant that does 100 million scope, reducible to the NLNG at top technical availability levels. Last thing is that when we look at the energy transition for Nigeria, and we talk about renewables, I think in my view that the independents have a unique opportunity to ride on the back of the divestments to now create the avenue to be able to grow renewables in the country. And I'll give the example. What we did as RRL, on the back of the successes we have achieved in oil and gas, we partnered with a renewables company and we were able to deliver electricity to 4 communities that have never ever had electricity before in Nigeria, southwest Nigeria. Riding on the back of the project management experience we have, the governance that we have in place in being able to govern projects, that was how we were able to succeed in that renewables business. And also we were able to bring in capital to start that project. So I think it's a beautiful story for the independents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Carrying a lot of technical expertise and local solutions to local problems. Thank you for sharing that. And you did comprehensively provide a compelling story for why indigenous companies can step up to pick up these assets. But I'll come to Larry from ND Western, and if you can add a little bit more on the divestments. The majors are going into the deep water. Are there still other opportunities for indigenous companies? And from just reflecting more broadly, where would you see Nigeria's production coming from?
Okay. Thanks, Mason. A lot of what Larry has shared, he's done a really good job describing what the opportunity is with the divestments. I think one of the things that is very critical is a strong corporate governance as the indigenous companies taking over these assets need to be to consolidate and ensure that we're building companies that have strong corporate governance that can execute and that are sustainable long term. So the opportunity space, like he had mentioned, is onshore consolidation, the shallow water, and the only way we can step into the bigger space of maybe deep water in the future is really through collaboration. So there's got to be among indigenous players the recognition that we don't have all the capabilities within one company, and that we have to collaborate to be able to be successful. And the ND Western experience justifies or it speaks to that importance of collaboration, bringing the different technical capabilities to the table, financial capability as well is extremely important. And then having a real focus on how do we build organizational capability going forward. So yes, we may have technical professionals available today who have been trained by the IOCs and are available to the indigenous companies. But what of the next 5 years and the next 10 years? Where's that organizational capability going to come from? And so we really need to be very deliberate about building that technical capability in the industry going forward. Otherwise, we won't be able to sustain the gains we've made today.
Thank you. When Larry was talking, Dapo, he mentioned some of the challenges operating onshore Nigeria, your onshore Nigeria as well. You face some of these and maybe other sets of challenges. What strategies should an EMP adopt to navigate some of the risks, mitigate, and put in place certain measures to be successful operating onshore Nigeria?
Thanks a lot. I think the operating onshore assets within the Niger Delta has its own territorial challenges, economic, social, and etc. But I'm not really going to go onto that because I believe that's been covered by the panelists. But the key thing is I just want to dwell on what has worked for us as water sweets. Petroman operating an onshore asset within the southeastern region of Nigeria. The topmost is the strategic focus of our leadership in terms of what I would call environmental and community stewardship, ensuring that you have adequate stakeholder management strategies in place. And when we talk about stakeholders cuts across your host communities, your staff, your personnel, and of course, at the end of the day, regulatory bodies and partnerships across the board. So for us as World Suite, it's been over 13 to 14 years of incident-free operations within where we operate. It's been a case of deploying what we call a global MOU with our host communities, and we've kept faith in that. Strategically over the few years I've operated within the onshore space. But it's more of, first you must be adaptable, you have to be agile, you have to have a responsive type of strategy, a strategy that understands the peculiarity of the environment where you operate. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's a case of building your stakeholder management and community engagement strategy from bottom up. So from a needs assessment point of view to ensuring that your host communities and your host governments understand the fact that yes, you are here to build, you are here to grow, and you are to grow together, and you are to create value, sustainable value, and impact, direct impact to your immediate area of operation first of all, and then to the extended bodies around it.
Thank you very much. George, just linking to financing, what are some of the critical factors that EMPs need to put in place to be able to raise finance, particularly in the context of the Nigeria economy, energy transition, competing sources of finance?
Certainly, thanks, Mansour. We're certainly in an environment where it's more difficult to raise finance, and clearly energy transition is part of that. But there are a few things that help to ensure that companies can attract the right financing. I mean, it goes without, it's a given that projects have to be economically robust. So if we set that aside, our view is, if we talk about the more sort of traditional sources of financing, projects have to deal with emissions. They have to deal with natural gas, whether it's utilization.
There are tax breaks, the local content to do compliance, there is executive order to do that, the treasury that companies can spend without concurrence from their regime partners, and etc. So today, we're going to have an opportunity to hear from panelists. And at the end of the day, I believe that whatever concerns you have, about investing in Nigeria, that are in the upstream, in the midstream, in the downstream, will be answered. In conclusion, let me say that Nigeria is ready for business. Nigeria remains the leader of oil and gas as far as Africa is concerned. We are ready to collaborate with the rest of the world to ensure that we attract investment that is needed to contribute our growth to the global energy economy. The opportunity is there, and I don't want any of it to miss. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Nigeria is open for business. Nigeria is ready for business. So we heard earlier from Namibia's minister a African proverb about chameleons. I'd like to add another one to that, and it says, until the lion tells his side of the story, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And this is a platform where we all get to share our story and tell our story and invest in countries that have potential for energy, which are a majority of African states. Now we'll have a keynote speech from Mr. Ulu Virgin, Special Advisor for the Nigerian President on Energy. Please come to the stage.
I'm far from a Mr. Aren't I? I am Mrs. Uluvermayan. I'm the Special Advisor to the President of Nigeria on Energy. And it is with great pleasure that I address you this afternoon to kick off a roundtable discussion on investing in Nigeria's energy sector. In essence, what I'll be doing, just as the Honorable Minister has done, is making a pitch about why Nigeria matters at this time and why it will continue to matter into the future. My remarks will be followed by a panel discussion featuring a distinguished cast of Nigerian experts drawn from the public and private sectors who will no doubt bring to bear on the discussion their extensive knowledge and experience and provide enriching insights. I very much look forward to that discussion. I'll be addressing those who are already familiar with Nigeria, many of you are, as well as those who might not be very familiar with our country. The theme of my remarks will be on making the point that if you're already in Nigeria's energy sector, you should be thinking about expanding and deepening your footprint. If you're not there yet, now's the time. It's time to seriously consider us. Here's why. A year and a half ago, Nigeria underwent a political transition, ushering in His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the President of Nigeria. Energy security featured very prominently in the President's agenda, and he has demonstrated a very strong commitment to implementing major reforms in the sector since he assumed office. Despite our abundant endowments of oil and gas, we have over the years severely underperformed against our potential. A deep offshore competitor, such as Brazil, only has 30% of our reserves, but they produce 131% more. Natural gas, which we hold the 10th largest reserves in the world, only contributes about 1% of our GDP, and 70% of our natural gas, 75% of our natural gas remains untapped. All of these issues speak to one critical issue: underinvestment. Since 2016, we've only managed to attract 4% of total investments in the oil and gas sector, while less resourced countries in Africa have enjoyed a bigger share. When we analyzed the investment data, we also found that between 2013, when Nigeria's last deepwater project reached FID, and now, IOCs operating in other countries, operating in Nigeria, have committed more than $82 billion in deepwater investments in other countries, and they have deemed much more attractive for their capital. So what steps have we taken? At the start of our administration, we conducted an assessment of the petroleum sector, which highlighted the need for a conducive business environment to restore investor confidence and improve our competitiveness for global capital allocation. Through extensive engagements, benchmarking, and analysis, we identified high-impact issues that if addressed, could really improve our competitiveness. Based on this very new approach of taking a data-driven approach to policymaking, the presidency issued directives and specified interventions to reposition Nigeria as its preferred investment destination. For the upstream sector, we worked with the National Security Advisor to develop and issue targeted security directives that were informed by data from on-the-ground operators. We have also issued directives to streamline approval processes by clearly defining regulatory scopes of our two regulators and reduce the extensive project timelines and the high cost premiums associated with operating in Nigeria. Our target is to shorten contracting timelines from as long as 38 months to 135 days, and to eliminate a 40% cost premium within the Nigerian petroleum industry. To enable investments in gas and deep offshore, we have introduced a clear set of fiscal incentives for non-associated gas, deep offshore, oil and gas exploration and production. It is the very first time that Nigeria is outlining a fiscal framework for deep water gas since exploration began in that basin in 1991. We have also introduced fiscal incentives to catalyze investments in our midstream and downstream sectors, including compressed natural gas, liquefied petroleum gas, and mini LNG. These align with the broader Gas for Growth initiative, which seeks to displace PMS and diesel in three key sectors: heavy transport, decentralized power generation, and cooking. Our incentives are also stimulating demand for electric vehicles. We are already seeing the fruit of our work. Regulatory approvals are being expedited. Rent-seeking middlemen are giving way to local entrepreneurs with genuine capacity, and major upstream investment decisions are being finalized. We have unlocked over $1 billion of investments across the value chain in the last 12 months, and by the middle of next year, we expect to see FID on 2 more projects, including a multi-billion-dollar deep water project, which will be the first of its kind in over a decade, and we hope many more to come. While we are making strides in the upstream, midstream, and downstream oil and gas sectors, we are also focused on tackling Nigeria's critical energy access challenge. With over 86 million Nigerians lacking electricity access, Nigeria has the largest population without power. The absence of reliable electricity costs the nation about 6% of our GDP annually. To accelerate our path to industrialization and productivity growth, we are rolling out initiatives that will expand both on-grid and off-grid energy access, and have set a target to ensure that a significant number of end users in urban areas and industrial clusters have access to at least 20 hours of electricity by 2027. To improve on-grid access, which is critical to our ability to industrialize, we have focused on improving the financial liquidity across the power value chain. As a first step, we are implementing a comprehensive presidential strategy to resolve legacy power sector debts and gas supply debts through a combination of cash and non-cash instruments. To improve revenue assurance and collection for the value chain, we have launched a presidential metering initiative designed to deploy over 7 million smart meters and ancillary technologies so that we can reduce our losses from about 40% to 20% by 2027. We intend to leverage these technologies to enable distribution companies to make data-driven investment decisions that improve access and reliability in key economic areas. By connecting these high-value zones to the grid, we address a long-standing issue, the lack of reliable power for industries. A reliable grid for industry will generate more employment, improve the purchasing power of Nigerians, and inject the much-needed liquidity into that sector. Additionally, we're focusing on expanding energy access in areas where traditional grid connections remain limited or uneconomic. To achieve this, we are deploying off-grid solutions, including mini-grids, which will improve the overall resilience of the grid and diversify our energy sources. As reliability improves, we build trust, and we continue to transition to cost-reflective tariffs. Furthermore, we are deploying additional technologies that will enable direct subsidy payments to the poor and vulnerable, as well as strategic social sectors. Before I close, let me situate these energy reforms within the context of a larger macroeconomic reform program launched by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu upon resumption of office. As the Honorable Minister said, the removal of petroleum subsidies has liberalized our downstream sector. And we've also liberalized our foreign exchange market. These bold reforms help us stabilize our public finances and boost investor confidence. Nigeria, under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will continue to champion unprecedented reforms that will position the country to unlock its immense economic potential. We're working closely with the domestic and foreign partners and stakeholders. We're going to create jobs and advance prosperity and economic growth and development. On that note, I thank you for listening, and I look forward to the panel discussion that's going to follow.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and my apologies, Mrs. Zulu. Sincere apologies about that. Next, we have a very interesting and dynamic panel looking at the opportunities in Nigeria's energy sector. Moderating the panel is Mr. Mansour Mohammed, Head of West Africa Upstream Research of Wood Mackenzie. If you can please come to the stage, and all the panelists, could you please also join Mr. Mansour?
Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome to the panel session on Invest in Nigeria Energies. If we can please welcome the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Oil to join us. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us, Honorable Minister. Last year, we missed the opportunity to have you, and I was introduced as the Minister of Petroleum for Nigeria. I quickly declined and said, let the man do his job first, succeed, and then perhaps I can take over. So thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the other panelists. We have Mustafa Abdul, Executive Director, Health, Safety, Environment and Community at the Nigerian Ministerial Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Welcome. We have Mr. Austin Abu, Chairman. We have Shegun Kuti, Director of the CNL Joint Venture. Nosa Omorodion, who is Country Director for SLB Nigeria. Oliver Quinn, Chief Executive Officer of Africa. Peter Oluwodu, who is Head of Client Relations, Anglophone West Africa, Africa, the financiers of Africa oil and gas sector. And
first question for Honorable Minister. You talked about the vast resources that Nigeria still has. There's still a lot of upside potential from brownfield and exploration prospects. For those who joined us a little bit late in the room, can you please give us a little recap of what are the opportunities in Nigeria for more production? Launched the $1 billion initiative within 24 months. How is government going to support that?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that best of luck. I hope that you will do something to something.
Amen to that.
And you'll be a nice, you'll be of a place to benefit to the country if you become minister of something. Because of the experience you gathered over the years because of the work. So I wish you the best of luck. Having said that, let me, recap by saying that Nigeria is the leading producer of oil and gas in Africa. 37.5 billion global reserves of crude oil and 209 trillion cubic feet, with potential to double this. These figures we're talking about are basically figures that we have been talking about for the past 2 decades. The reason is that there have been very limited exploration activities the last few years. So our own ambition as a government is to see how we can also double our reserves. And so as governments, from the policy standpoint, they are working together with players to ensure that they embark on drilling campaigns. But the global partners that ISO produce, they also drill, so they can release what are taken out. And when Nigeria, was said to have got to about 37.5 billion, barrels of oil, most African countries haven't discovered oil. Now all of them, in limited quantities, they have discovered oil. So in my own considered opinion, there is more oil also in Nigeria than we have discovered. So we are going to discover that downstream was very soon. But one of the reasons why investment was slow was because, as I said, there is a legal framework for investment. I was in the Senate in 2007 when the first PIP was introduced. It didn't pass until I left the Senate meetings. And then it didn't pass until 2021. Nobody wants to put the money in an environment where there is no stable legal governance structure. But PIA was passed thankfully in 2021. And thereafter, 2 strong regulatory agencies were set up. Like I said, the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and then the Nigerian Midstream, Downstream, Petroleum Regulatory Authority to regulate both sectors of petroleum industry. So there are enormous opportunities in Nigeria. I should agree with you. Any liter of oil that is refined in Nigeria but as imported into Nigeria services the entire West African industry. That was why the best decision. And there was consensus. In 2023 elections, all candidates from open companies campaigned that we did resources. It was sustainable. When the rest of the world was making money in the wake of the Russian and the war, Nigeria didn't make money. We made money, but we need money to also finance fueling products. We ship out the crude, we also ship the refined products. But there's more value in the midstream and downstream. And that's what we're saying that Nigeria gives us, or gives the world the best opportunity, for them to come and invest, explore the market, and then, create value, for the economy.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And the Special Advisor on Energy to the President has already touched on the incentives that are on offer, that have been offered on the back of the PIA already.
she mentioned a few of the projects that are due to take FID to grow production. And I'm glad you mentioned the midstream, and that is a great segue to bring in the midstream and downstream regulator. Can you provide an overview of some of the investments within downstream sector that support access to products across the country and indeed to the West Africa region? Honorable Minister must have been referencing the Dangote refinery. It's now producing, it's a private investment, largest single trade refinery, domiciled in Nigeria, Honorable Minister. So if you can talk about some of the investments and what we can look forward to beyond the Dangote refinery from the downstream side of things.
Thank you very much, Mansour. Thank you, fellow panelists. It's a great privilege to be on the panel with the Honorable Minister. Fellow panelists. Thank you, audience, for giving us the time to talk. Yeah, so I think the key message has already been delivered by both the Honorable Minister and the energy. The entire downstream sector of Nigeria, oil and gas, has been liberalized. So the market is taking shape and is open for business, and a liberalized market actually attracts investment. But in terms of infrastructure, and I think our mandate in PPI is to ensure adequate security of supply of petroleum products across the 900,000 square kilometers of Nigeria to over 200 million people. But importantly, I think the coming of the Dangote refinery, which is very exciting to all Nigeria. So Dangote refinery is ramping up production and is part of the energy supply now. And in the near future, when it's fully utilized, when the utilization capacity has increased, with 650,000 barrels of oil, in addition to the other NNPC refineries that are going upgrades and maintenance. We also have other modular refineries. So the landscape and the narrative definitely changed from Nigeria being an importer of petroleum product to be a net exporter of this product. But in exporting this product, as the Honorable Minister has said, we've been servicing the West African countries, I would say, legally sort of leakages through cross-border smoking. But we want to do that legally. In doing that, we have to look at regional approach, where we have a regional regulatory framework with neighboring countries, not just within Africa, West Africa, but looking at Africa, developing the key infrastructure. And I remember just last week, I was in a conference, OTL, which is the Downstream conference for oil and gas in Nigeria, and the regulator from Ghana was very excited about Dangote. They will, instead of importing products from Europe, they'll be able to import products from Dangote refinery in Nigeria. But the key thing is, why the investments, and these are important investment opportunities. The reception facilities, the jetties, the process, the pipeline, whether virtual or the key infrastructures that we need. So these are key, investment opportunities for all investors to come and keep. And I'll talk about the midstream sector of the economy. I think midstream is like in the forefront of development. With the passing of the PIA, that brought the midstream sector of the oil and gas industry. And I think there's a lot of investment opportunity, particularly in terms of gas processing. And we just the Honorable Minister and the President himself actually launched the annual gas project, which was phased into 300 by 2. So, and there are other many upcoming gas projects, like we're looking at the UTM, phase floating, LNG in West Africa. And even if you go down the line to even the retail outlets, so with the drive to promote and deepen gas utilization in the country, it provides opportunities to invest for CNG as well and LPG as well. So there are a lot of investment opportunities within both the ministry and the downstream sector.
Thank you very much. What I am hearing is Nigeria has significant upstream potential, downstream infrastructure is coming, so it's really a hub from a vertically integrated point of view. And lots of opportunities for investors. If I move on to speak to Austin Aburu, who is an industry stalwart. You've been involved in upstream asset acquisitions for as far back as 2010, if not longer. So you understand the terrain, the challenges, the opportunities more so in Nigeria, and a good grasp of the operating landscape. We're now seeing a flurry of M&A activity across upstream with indigenous companies stepping up to acquire positions the majors are divesting. What else can the government do to help develop the indigenous company capacity in Nigeria? And how can some of the indigenous companies take advantage of what's on offer from the government?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Since the opening ceremony yesterday, and in particular the Ministerial panel yesterday, there's so much talk about collaboration. And that's what I want to speak about, just to answer your question. For the past 14 years in Nigeria, the industry on its own has been undergoing a reordering of responsibilities. Unfortunately, the governments before this one either didn't recognize this reordering that was taking place or didn't pay attention to it. And so it was met with some regulatory resistance. In fact, there were no regulatory rules for this reordering until the past 1 year. I have to congratulate both the minister and in particular the presidential advisor that I listened to her short while ago. So today, what do we have? We have a whole new field that emphasizes collaboration. So in the upstream, we have independents stepping into the shallow offshore and the onshore. And the IOCs moving their expertise and huge financial capacity into the deep offshore. As you pointed out, in the past 13 years, as we verified the development in the offshore, we are now going to see that from the same multinationals that begin to play field in the onshore. Now, as I said, this has been going on for 20 years, unnoticed. And so we neither allow those who are looking to leave, nor allow the ones who are coming to come in. And the lethargy that's followed very late for 80% drop in investments. That is what is being corrected, particularly from what the Honorable Advisor said. So what you're going to see will be a lot of activity in the deep offshore by the IOCs, and a lot of activity in the onshore and shallow water by the independents that have the capacity to do so. When you look at regional collaboration, you're going to be seeing, let's say gas, for instance, collaboration in gas. You'll be seeing export gas opportunities being developed by the IOCs through the expansion of the LNG and probably an additional LNG trains coming in. While the independents will concentrate on domestic and regional gas distribution. As we speak today, the independents account for 70% of domestic gas distribution. That's going to go very quickly to nearly 100%. So in the next 3 years, when you'll be looking to see 3 BCF of gas distributed domestically, that's going to come from the independents. It's already showing that they can separate alone. At the end of this year, we'll have capacity to distribute 800 million scf of gas per day. And they are going to ramp that up to about 1.2 BCF a day. So what do we then expect? Now that we have a government that has recognized these unbundling and the new opportunities, what we then expect from them is rather than showing reluctance, indifference, or almost anger at these acquisitions and divestments, we are happy now that they understand what is happening. We then expect what we call deliberate regulatory efforts to support the independent to build capacity because they have come into play in a major section of the industry, while supporting also through the new enabling business laws that are coming up, enabling the IOCs to go and show their might in gas exports and water operations. So that is the big, broad collaboration efforts that are going on. And we're happy to see that the current government recognizes this and is supporting it.
Thank you very much. IOCs are not leaving Nigeria, they're just shifting focus and they have their priority projects and it's in the deep water. And on the point of collaboration, it's required across industry stakeholders to move forward. Let's hear from an IOC, Chevron. Chevron, given all the initiatives from the government, the opportunities, what are the opportunities that you see for large IOCs within Nigeria from what we've heard today? And for Chevron in particular, you've converted to PIA terms for your JV. You're renewing your licenses, and most recently there was a significant exploration discovery on your shallow water portfolio. So Chevron is active in shallow water position. So what's the growth strategy for Chevron in Nigeria?
Well, thanks, Mansour, and thanks, Honorable Minister, the Special Assistant to the President, and thanks, fellow panelists. It's a great opportunity to answer that question and put things in context for Chevron. So Chevron is a 145-year-old company globally, a global player that has been around, and in Nigeria specifically we've been around for 60 plus years. And within that 60 years, with collaboration with the joint venture with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited and production sharing contract arrangements, we've produced over 7 billion barrels of oil and gas equivalent. And like you rightly said, we've been around and we've been very active in leveraging opportunities, and particularly the more recent enablers provided by the federal government to jointly produce the energy that the world needs, that Nigeria needs in particular. The Honorable Minister did a great job describing the potential, the reserves, and I think the special advisor also connected that with the need, the erosion of GDP through the underutilization of the opportunities. And that's where we come in. Like you rightly said, we've processed or renewed our licenses in the shallow water area. We've acquired a new lease offshore in the deep water space. We've shot some additional seismic and we're doing more. And we are positioning ourselves for more exploration activities, particularly in the deep water space. And thankfully you mentioned the recent appraisal well that we drilled with that public. I think those are very good indicators of our goal for the future, our objectives or our plans. Because when you talk about renewing 3 licenses in the deep water space for 20 years, that ordinarily should be an indication of the fact that we are here for the long haul, partnering with joint venture partners at NPCL. But very importantly, I would like to emphasize that we are a global player. We have lots of expertise all over the world. We are beginning to see encouraging signs and enablers from the Nigerian government. And when you combine that, I see the IOCs, Chevron in particular, being a key player in the future of Nigeria, Nigeria and gas industry.
Thank you very much for stating that. As a matter of fact, Chevron is here to stay in Nigeria. We have a new entrant into Nigeria, Africa Oil Corp. Oliver, there's a licensing round that's open in the deep water. 31 blocks are on offer. What do independents such as Africa Oil Corp look for when looking for these entry opportunities? So what are the key ingredients there? And maybe from your point of view, you look at all opportunities globally. Where do you see Nigeria in terms of competitiveness with regards to opportunities?
Yeah, thank you, Mansour. I think, let me just start by saying that as you say, we're a new entrant, so we are a producer in deep water Nigeria through our ownership of Prime Oil and Gas. So we partner with Chevron, Agami, Total as operator in Akpo and Regina. So we have a world-class, non-operated production position, which we really like. So then to your question in particular, what do we look at when we seek to enter a new country? I think broadly there are 3 buckets, if you like. The first one is subsurface. So the rocks, the oil, petroleum system has got to work right. It's kind of taken for granted, but really high quality subsurface. The The second is something that the Honourable Minister and several people have talked about here already, which is regulatory environment. So, I think there are sometimes some views out there that, people don't like regulations. Well, actually, we do like regulations. What we like are clear, stable, investor-friendly regulations. And actually regulations that are sustainable. And what I mean by sustainable is not just suitable for us as the oil company investing, but sustainable for the government and the people of the country. It doesn't work if we don't share, right? And I think we've seen many examples of that. I think the third thing that we look for is a kind of overarching important point, which is the political position of the country. Is there support for the industry there? And I think as we go through the transition here, that is more and more the case. I'm from the UK, which you can probably hear, and the politest thing I can say is it's a country that has a strong history in the upstream sector, but has absolutely no political support for it today. Right? So that's difficult. Regulations come out of political support and political positions, right? So you need to be somewhere, if you're investing for the long term, that you can be confident that yes, there will be ups and downs, that happens in every country, but it's a landscape that's supported and set. If I turn to Nigeria, how do we see Nigeria in those three buckets, if you like? I think the first one, subsurface, is big tick, as described by the Honourable Minister. Austin characterised it very well. There's significant potential there. It hasn't been tapped for various reasons for several years, so that's a big tick. The second one, and again, it's been quite central to this conversation so far, regulatory. And again, I would echo the comments made, which is we have seen some slow progress historically in Nigeria, some complexity. What we see today is a streamlined upstream set of regulations, post the BIA, a very clear set of rules to play by. And I will compliment any PRC, as the Honourable Minister pointed out, the Special Advisor, having cleared many transactions that have been hanging around for a while. So things are moving, right? So that's a real positive sign. This takes us to the third point in Nigeria, which is, look, again, there are ups and downs. It's a democracy, governments change, but it's a sector that's very important to the country. So we can be confident that you can ride out those ups and downs because the country needs, and another theme of this conference, it's right and justified in producing its natural resources. And so there's a long-term play there. So I think if I summarise that, we look at many countries around the world, those three big buckets of where we focus. I think in Nigeria, all three are good. I think the regulatory one is the key right now, that has improved significantly. Things are moving well, and I think it augurs very well for the licence round, and it augurs very well for the continued development and exploration of the offshore.
Thank you very much. So, out of your 3 points, the regulatory element is within the gift of the government, the political situation is within the gift of the people in the country. What's completely out of everyone's hands is the subsurface. If I turn to Rob, given the recent merger between PGS and TGS is now the leading geophysical seismic acquisition company in the world. Now, how do you help companies find oil with certainty through technology, and also help reduce the time it takes to make a decision on the subsurface quality, the imaging, and ultimately lower costs for services?
Yeah, okay, thank you. And again, I'm very honoured to be on this panel. So TGS has been partnering and collaborating in Nigeria for 30 years, since 1994. So we're very proud of that collaboration and that partnership, one of the oldest partnerships in Africa. And the combination of that offshore for us is a footprint, a seismic footprint of over 80,000 square kilometers of seismic. So we'll come back to that probably later. I want to make 3 points here. So in terms of the combined company, we now have a very robust combination of technologies that we can draw from to serve the industry, right from our streamer seismic business, and we have, without question, the best fleet of seismic vessels in the world. We now have ocean bottom node capabilities with the inclusion of the Magseis Fairfield entity. We have 4D acquisition and technology. We have a lot of advancements in digitalization, as well as advancements in the new energy space. And of course, with the coming together of these two very significant companies, we have a very now broad combination of skills and expertise from our people, who are the most important resource to the company. Second point, to talk about cost reduction. This is a challenging area, of course. It often comes down to cost, and how TGS is looking at this and trying to do our part is by, certainly on the acquisition side, is to look at efficiencies of acquisition. So with our robust fleet of vessels, we can look at different streamer configurations, wide tow,